Okay, and I just,
Okay, we can start.
I hereby call this, Eliza Shakespeare, do hereby call this Gerhart City Council meeting for June 3rd, 2026 to order.
We might have a permanent job for you. Yeah.
So, how about you?
Are you available every Wednesday, first Wednesday of the month?
What's your job? Good work. Thanks. It's one of the perks of being mayor.
Thank you.
Okay. Is there any conflict of interest? We are calling that as an opening ceremony.
No. No.
nope.
No, okay. We're going to have a public hearing now. This is a public hearing regarding 2026, 2027 possible uses of state revenue sharing funds. The 2026 and 2027 City of Gerhart budget and the 2026 and 2027 Gerhart Road District budget. Does anyone have an objection to the jurisdiction of the Gerhart City Council to hear this matter at this time? Seeing none, does any city council member believe he or she has a conflict of interest?
No.
Nope.
No. Is there any additional correspondence to the budgets? No. Are there any presentation comments by proponents at this time? Are there any presentation comments by opponents at this time? Is there a staff summary or response? No. All right. I hereby close the hearing. We're now going to deliberation on the budget. So any questions? Is that right? It says right here, council deliberation, then council decision. Are we not moving in that direction?
We will in the meeting. Sorry.
We will in the meeting?
It's on page. Of the agenda. We're at the approved minutes now.
Okay, we're at the approved the minutes. Let's see, this is. All right, let's approve the minutes of the executive session, May 6, 2026.
Move to approve the minutes of the executive session of City Council Wednesday, May 6, 2026.
Second.
Okay. There's a second. Is there any discussion? Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Now we'll go to the regular meeting of the City Council Wednesday, May 6, 2026.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Is there any discussion or corrections? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right. Now we'll go to the City of Gerhart Budget Committee meeting on Wednesday, May 13th, 2026.
Motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Okay, any discussion, questions? Corrections? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, everyone has got a planning commission report. Any questions for Chad on that? Hearing none, we'll move on. Oh. Mayor's report. Our bond failed. If you didn't know it, we do. We haven't decided what we're going to do, but we're moving on. We've got other things in life in this city that we need to do. I have my own feelings about why it failed. And we'll go on to council reports. Paulina.
I had a couple of meetings this month. I met with yourself, Mr. Mayor, and with Chad a couple of times, so a little briefly. I attended it was a League of Oregon Cities urban growth boundary webinar on the one-time process in the state law that has happened. Unfortunately, I couldn't get the sound to work on that thing. But I do have the slide deck if we want to go back and take a look at it anytime. I also attended the County Housing Task Force. Most of that was a look at a presentation on Manzanita for workforce housing, some discussion about whether it's workforce or middle housing or low income or whatever you call it. But it's basically, it's jobs for people that take care of other people, whether it's in restaurants or hospitals or hotels. It's housing for people like that. And Cannon Beach also had a small presentation on what they're working on. And obviously you drive through Seaside, you could see some of the workforce housing that they've been working on. Nothing to my knowledge going on in on the front. That's all I got.
Sure.
I only did two things. Number one, attended the second budget committee meeting, and number two, attended the airport committee meeting. Of interest is that the airport would like to, the committee would like to plant some wild rose along the northern boundary, which is Gerhardt's property. Yeah, we will do that through volunteers and potentially just digging up little starts that come from the roses. I have a couple of ideas about where we could get those in Gerhardt. Talk to Chad about it, and that would be volunteers digging it up and taking them out there and planting them. They need to have some type of impervious hedge along the northern boundary as opposed to putting a fence up. That's the idea.
Thank you. Preston.
I also attend budget meetings and I just want to say to the audience, I mean, the planning commission, I think has done a wonderful job. I'm really disappointed about the bond levy.
All right. Dana.
I did a lot of traveling this last month, so I didn't have as much on my agenda. I did do the budget meeting, and also I monitored communication with the post office. I did communicate with them a little bit with Ryan Sherman down at the Seaside Post Office when they failed to distribute the voters pamphlets to everybody initially, and after that I was traveling, so that was it. That was pretty much my month.
Okay, thank you. All right, on to the officers' report. Chief Josh, excuse me.
Good evening. I'll make this quick. Stats for May, we had 152 calls for service. That puts us at 599 this year. And that were provided to City Hall to be disseminated to the city blog. Memorial Day weekend was busy, but nothing crazy occurred. Everything sounded well, so that's good. Everything went smoothly. That's all I have.
You have 599 calls and it's just now June.
Yes, sir.
You're busy.
Well, we do it with 3 people, so. And that doesn't count what county comes to deal with. Those are separate calls for service, so.
Thank you.
Thank you. Y'all have a good night.
Thank you.
You too. And now we're gonna go to Fire Chief Josh.
Thank you, sir. We had 65 calls for May. 34 were inside the city limits and 29 were in the district. We had 2 aid calls that we sent aid out for. One in Lewis and Clark for a mobile property fire. We never got all the way there. I think it was a mobile home. And then once in Warrenton, they had like 3 calls at once. So they asked us to cover one of their calls that was right at Sunset Lake, right close to our district. And we received aid once for a water rescue call, aid from Seaside Fire. And then our fundraiser went very well. Not all the numbers are in yet, but it's looking like it's been the most successful one so far. So that's very, very exciting for that. We're planning our July 4th, all of our planning preparation and events for that. Typical things, we'll have the regular parade and the hot dogs at the station afterwards. And then I just got an email about an hour ago. ODS is looking at June 15th, they'll go into regulated use burn season, which is the regular first step in fire seasons. So it means no more debris burning. So no piles larger than a 3-foot cube and burn barrels only daylight to 10 a.m. So June 15th, they'll get started. That's what I got for you.
10 a.m.
Daylight to 10 a.m. only for burn barrels.
All right.
Campfires, you can do them 24/7 if there's someone there. It has to be attended, just like
We don't need a hose on the campfire.
supposed to have one there. But one of the main things is there has to be someone there. We get called a lot to them and we show up and there's no one outside. And so they have to go deal with them.
Right. Thank you very much.
Of course.
Thank you.
All right. Asker of money.
We're in our final month of the fiscal year and overall revenues and expenditures are meeting our targets. The building fund has had 2 really strong months, but they still are struggling to meet their expenditures, so we'll continue to monitor them. Municipal court revenue fees have been processed and distributed. And when the city collects revenues for tickets from court, the money goes into a bail trust liability account. And after the tickets are finalized and paid and go through the court process, we distribute the money out to 3 different agencies, to the city of Gerhart, to the state of Oregon, and to Clatsop County for mandatory fees that are required for municipal court. And our portion of that distribution was put into 10-0013 fines and forfeitures. In the water operating account 33003, part-time help, there was a temporary person that was hired to assist with our annual hydrant maintenance. The service is for a specific task and is done every year. They are a temporary employee just for approximately 2 months, because they are not usually a licensed purchase service. So they don't have a business license, they don't have workers' comp. A lot of times it's just a temporary person we hire for a short period of time. There was a payment in 3047 supplies, services, and chemicals to Miller Nash for services, which was for legal assistance with the City of Warrenton water agreement. Barry, Elzer, and Hammond weren't able to assist us because they also work with the City of Warrenton, so there was just a conflict of interest there, so we had to have somebody else look over our water agreement. There was a payment in 3064 water purchase to the City of Seaside for 4 Gerhart properties that Seaside provides water to. The individual properties are part of the City of Gerhart's boundaries and are part of our water system. So we read the meter and we send them an invoice just on a regular cycle. However, the actual water that flows into their meter and into their house is from the city of Seaside. So the city of Seaside monitors those once a year and sends us the read, and then we pay for the water to the city of Seaside for that purchase.
That's it.
That's it.
Thank you very much.
Quick question. Ballpark figure, how many water users, how many water accounts do we have?
We have
600?
1,642 meters that we invoice out every other month, so.
Thank you.
And then the condos have 1 meter, but multiple dwelling units.
Any idea how many they have? And many dwelling units?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Probably another 300, 200,
Okay.
300,
Thank you.
somewhere in there is my best guess.
Justine, you do 1,600 read or billings every other month, or is it 800 every month?
800 every month.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. We have an odd and an even route.
Right, okay. All right, moving. City administrator. Oh, city attorney, I'm sorry. Good grief.
I was waiting to see Chad Jacobs. We have Lydia Fisher, but Lydia, you're coming up here in just a moment. This is generally for Chad Jacobs.
Can you see me there?
Yeah, are you covering for him today or?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I thought we were covering the fence
13th Street? No, I requested Chad be here for the meeting, but it wasn't imperative. He's not here yet, so we'll hold off on that portion.
Okay.
I'll find out where he's at, and then we'll go in just a moment with you, Lydia.
All right, Chad, you're up.
You have my report from meetings coordination, code enforcement and such. Been a busy month. Let me know if you have any questions about that report. The May 2026 bond measure election results and update. I'm going to leave that to the city councilors, as you folks have already spoken about a little bit. And then Lydia Fisher with BEH is here with us. Barry Elsner and Hammond. She works at the same firm that Chad Jacobs does. And the city council had asked us to work with them to suss out any information on the 13th Street situation with the beach trail and the fence that was installed. And Lydia is here to speak about that. Lydia.
Okay. So the council asked that we review what the city had already discovered about the kid property and the fence and any other potential violations that have been raised, potential complaints about violations that have been raised. And so I reviewed everything that the city had done up until the point I came on, and then also reviewed property agreements and surveys, permits, and the consultations with the county and the state that the city had done. And the conclusions that we came to are that the historical deed and land grant record does not indicate that KID has built anything on public land, which was one of the concerns that was raised. Everything that he has built on is private, his private land. The septic drain field, which there were questions about, was properly permitted and is on his land. The fence was permitted. It's permitted outright under the BAD zone code, which is the zone code that covers the beaches and dunes area of KID's property. And there were concerns raised about dune vegetation violations. And that is the area that I think there are potential violations that the city is pursuing. There's 2 potential violations that the city is examining. And I don't know if Chad, if you want, if that's something you want to cover.
Right now, yeah, it appears as though the homeowners association had, this was kind of aside from this situation with the 13th Street. As we were working through this with Lydia, the homeowners association hired someone to go out there and do some mowing. It was not permitted. It was during the bird nesting season and it wasn't quite done correctly. So we are pursuing violations with those people, and it will be issuing them just within a couple days. And then they can choose what they want to do. So we're resolving that, but that's a little separate from this 13th Street issue, although it was on the same property, subject property.
Have you received any complaints in the last couple of days? Because there's a new posting about somebody being out there with a sword or something.
Yeah, we got a phone call and an email from a concerned citizen that said that there was some folks out there chopping scotch broom. And they were curious as to know whether or not that was outside of permittable use. The city really controls access to the beach using our beach access permit. So we won't allow anybody to go out there with a vehicle or mowing during certain times because of bird nesting season, which we're in right now. These folks started working out there with machetes to get rid of the scotch broom. And that is a permitted act, even though we are in bird nesting season, as long as they're not mowing or using any type of vehicle. It is still allowed for them to go out and remove noxious weeds, and that's what they were doing. There's also a report that there was a possibility of them cutting down some trees with those machetes, and I went out there and I didn't find anybody or any evidence that trees were being cut down, but monitored it. And then just a little bit later, then we go out there and their vehicle is out there. They just decided to park the car, reasons unknown, couldn't figure it out, wasn't even being used. So I had them immediately remove the car. And then we are potentially also going for a violation for that as well. So we have 2, if not 3 cases out there right now that are a little bit separate from Kit. Now, and to date, our findings that this was not Kevin Kidd ordering any of that work. The homeowners association adjacent to his house, but we're still working with them.
Is that Palisades Homeowners Association?
Yes.
And we're involved in that because they're in our urban growth boundary?
Correct. So the zone code overlays the urban growth boundary. It is so that a city can control its growth adjacent to its property, the city boundaries. And so the Palisades and the Highlands are both in our UGB, but they are not in the city of Gerhart, neither of them. So we do building permits for them. We administrate our zone code with them. And they are subject to all the overlays that have been laid upon that area and other zoning rules of Gerhart.
I don't know why anybody would object to somebody being out before the scotch broom seeds out.
Well, it's a challenge. Like some people want to mow mechanically because they feel that that's the best way to take care of the scotch broom, and that's debatable. May is probably the best month to mow or to remove scotch broom. Yet our ordinance prevents any mowing mechanically due to the bird nesting season. So there are other times of year where scotch broom is effective as well, maybe not as effective, what I've learned from Captain Sace of Loch Ness. So we have some competing things going on and some misunderstandings. So I believe after we are finished with this, the Palisades will be quite clear on what the rules are. And we are also going to be working with Lydia to clarify some things in our code to make it easier for everybody to understand. And we have some other areas that we need to look into, potentially make a little bit more, identifying potentially The beaches and dunes has a line. That's out between the vegetation line and the no-build line within the city. And we learned a lot about the beaches and dunes hazard line and how it's supposed to work within Gearhart. And then just want to clarify some things that we can better communicate so people know what they can and cannot do out there in that zone.
So the beach dune deal, right? Where is that line in relationship to the 1967 line?
The beaches and dunes vegetation line, I think, is what you're referring to. That's out there between the top of the dune and the houses, kind of the 1960s location of the dune when it existed back then, because the dune was all the way back and it's been accreting. Is that the line you're talking about?
That's the one that Bill Hay down in Camp Beach, you know, and Tom McCall forced the federal government to survey to distinguish where private lands stop and public land began.
It's more of a jurisdictional line. I'll let Lydia answer.
That's the statutory vegetation line. So that's that, and yes, that's the line that the state has established. And that's actually one of the reasons why we, after exploring this issue and realizing that maybe there could be more information for the public to make sure that they're really clear on what can and can't be done in the BAD overlay zone. The state, we realized that the state is actually reviewing that statutory vegetation line right now. So it might stay where it is, or it might change. So this is probably a good time for the city to re-examine the kind of information that is being disseminated to the community about, you know, what needs to, how protections need to be in place in that overlay zone, and where those the state line is, so that everybody is clear and knows what they can expect. And again, it's under review by the state, but until the state changes that line, it is established.
Well, historically, the people in the Palisades, unlike Surf Pines, the people in the Palisades, those oceanfront homes owned all the way to the vegetation line.
Mm-hmm.
And the same was true between Pacific Way and D Street in Gearhart.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they had the controversy down in Cannon Beach, McCall forced the federal government to survey the entire West Coast from the Mexican border to the Canadian border. And that was the line that determined at that time in 1967.
Right.
Where everything west of that line was public property and everything east of that line was private property. And I don't understand what this dune overlay zone is. It should be that line there, which was historically set in 1967.
Well, I think the dune overlay zone does reach to that line. So it's the line that is from the property over to the statutory vegetation line. But you're confused. Where's your confusion about what the code says about what can happen in that beaches and dunes overlay zone? That's by ordinance in Gearhart. That's not a state. The beaches and dunes rules are in Gearhart code.
Even though the Palisades is in Gearhart.
Correct, because they're an urban growth boundary and they are underneath our code.
Okay, so bottom line is, did Kid do anything illegal? I mean, he owns all the way on out to the 67 line. Whether he's a septic field out there or whether he puts a lawn out there or whatever.
Well, there are
It's probably right.
regulations, yeah. There are regulations within the code that say what you can do in that area, and it's simply because that area is still considered more worthy of protection because it is potentially unstable because it is still considered dune area. So and that's something that I mean that's part of this re-examination of the statutory vegetation line, I think, is that a lot of accretion has happened, at least in Gerhardt, that meaning like Gerhardt gained dune lands. So we haven't heard yet what that's examination of the statutory vegetation line will bring, but it's possible that the line will change and acknowledge that, you know, more land has been added to those dunes. We have to wait and see.
Well, everything that's been added to the dunes would be in the state park plan.
Not necessarily, I mean, it would depend. It depends on what the determinations they make.
So
I mean, I
there's
don't
really
think
three-
if you're gaining land, you don't need to worry about suddenly somebody coming and cutting your land in half. I think it's just that they're examining where the vegetation line will actually ends and how far those dunes have moved out towards sea.
Historically, I mean, when I was a kid, I could walk to the beach in 5 minutes. Now it takes almost 20.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's
That's how much this dune has grown out here. And in '67, that was the controversy.
Right. But anyway, what we have to work with is the Gerhardt Code, which has specific rules about how far out you can build from your property, and those determinations haven't changed since the ordinances were put in place. So that beaches and dune zone has particular regulations about how far out you can build your septic or how far out you can build ancillary structures. But what we determined is that at least on Kid's property, the things he has built have been permitted within the code.
Thank you.
Okay. So are we happy with that?
Well, I just, so moving forward, we're gonna do due process with the problems that you've identified. And we've received a letter from Cameron La Follette. Are we gonna respond? Is somebody gonna respond to that?
We are not on written correspondence, but we will be immediately.
Well, what I'm suggesting is that would our attorney respond so that we don't say anything that we represent something.
I think that would happen as soon as I get to the written correspondence.
Okay.
That's number one on the written correspondence. If I'm going to proceed to public communications or public comment. Anyone wishing to address the city council concerning items of interest not on the agenda may do so at this time. All remarks will be limited to 5 minutes per person. Requests to comment electronically must be submitted by email to the city recorder at info@cityofgerhardt.com. No later than 4 p.m. the day of the meeting. In-person attendees wishing to speak are required to sign in prior to the meeting. We're going to start off with Shannon Smith. Please state your name and your address.
I'm going to stay on the grass and think if you don't mind for a second.
That's a good place to be. So first of all, Shannon Smith, 774 Pacific Way, Gerhart, Oregon. Am I forgetting anything down the street? So I'm happy to be here tonight. I was really pleased to be able to attend the previous information meeting with the North Coast Land Conservancy and the positive alliance we want to form with that group, as well as how that's going to work for the city. I am so appreciative of it because not only do I own the land next door to it, I have a lovely friend that for years has helped make new Sitka spruce trees in my yard. And I thought this would be a particularly appropriate time to gift each one of you with a great little Sitka spruce tree. Now, bear in mind, these are about.
I have a million of those on
I
my.
was gonna say, then you
Anyway.
can donate yours to somebody else, but it's significant. Let me finish. If you want to give it back, you can. So, the chipmunk on my property likes to, store his little goodies so he can have his seeds for the winter. But, these have sprouted and for years now I've protected them. Again, that star there is 2 years old. So when you see the ones here that we're now able to say we've supported and protected, this has some appreciation. If you put these in your garden, they don't need a lot of watering. They're pretty good about that. So first, it's acknowledging this, that you guys took this action and we'd like to see more of it. As we know, this creek is pretty special. It is still a very wild and amazing place. Wildlife, fish life, all sorts of things exist there. I will say personally, I helped the Public Works guys last week retrieve the giant tire that had managed to float from somewhere, and actually went into the creek myself because our little hooks did not get far enough, and retrieved the big tire out of it. And then thanks to Public Works, they could lead it over the fence. But what I'm trying to emphasize is that your community loves to help you. And this energy we talked about a little bit at the meeting is here in various examples in this room. People want to grow invasive, or they want to remove invasive species. They'd like to grow more native plants. They'd like to do things where we can actually see our environment come back. I'm sorry the walk to the beach is a little longer, Preston, but it's great out there. There's lots of interesting things that have been there for now, centuries that we have no appreciation of. I will say, when I was in high school, I actually worked with a woman from Reed College, and we did the native plant inventory from, at that point, the dune where the houses were, the big houses, all the way to the ocean front. And I think I still have that somewhere. And my point being is that we need to take time to appreciate all that's really here, and not forget that we have to be the protectors of it now. I've felt energy from lots of people in town about, the government's losing money for different national parks. States are having to reallocate funds because it's being cut here and there. Communities are looking for how do we fund the things that are most important to us, how we pay for some of this. I'd like to suggest we think of new ways to maybe bring in revenue for this community. There are things here that I think perhaps other communities have thought of, other ways to help support maybe some dwindling taxes from what would have been spec homes or other properties, and look at what are the creative things our community's doing. So I'm willing to put some information out to folks to see if we can gather some of that energy, and then maybe have get a community team that sort of starts to make some recommendations based on what we hear and find out. We want our city to be well funded. We also want our native environment and our natural world to be protected. It's interesting to me to just understand things as far as there's been a long discussion in the world about environmental protection, all the different groups that have done the conservation efforts. This is actually from my college days, my environmental ethics class,
what's scary to me about reading this is everything read now decades ago is even in a more dire, urgent place today. So there's lots of people in the world that want to do and help this, and I still have a vision for Gerhart to do more, and I can again acknowledge you for taking these first steps. I'd like us to do more, and I'm going to be working to help organize it. So thank you, and let's continue.
Thank you, Shannon.
Thank you. Here's the music first. Oh, that was.
Okay. All right, next up is Bob Moore. Please state your name and your address.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Bob Morey. Address is 271 D Street, Gerhart, Oregon. Again, I thank you for your time that you put in for everything worked on to try to get us the model fire station. I'm an advocate for a new fire station being remodeled there. I was not a supporter of the process you used, and I was hopefully clear of that before. That's why I opposed it. It's time to slow this process down. We put the school, we wrote you a memo to say the schools there should be considered in your solution. You should try to figure out how you take 8.5 acres and 29,000 feet of building we've saved that we could not get the city to buy for $400,000 plus $100,000 gift back in 2020. Again, think of that. Not all the community understands the history of why we ended up with the school. It's because the city did not want to own the property. I consider the deal you're doing across the street absolutely pathetic. It just economically doesn't make any sense. You're looking at what one point, I don't know where you even are now. I've heard $2 million that you're prepared to put over there, 1.19 plus another almost 200,000 on it. We can work out something over time, slow the process down. I'm thinking you're probably trying to get something on the ballot in November. I'd like to know if you are or not, but the community should know. I would say let's slow this thing down to June or July of 27. Slow the thing down. Throw the school into the process, look at it. I spoke with Pat Power, Pacific Power today regarding their site. They're not going to consider their site to do anything with it till after 2027. They're just busy on other issues, and it's not a big enough asset. We're dealing with something at the school where the city on Chad, and I don't know if there was ever a blockage done with the drainage going across Pacific Way or not. But essentially our public purpose land, which is now you're valuing at a very high number if you change it to public purpose, ours has been flooded. And you can look at how the flooding's gone. And it's because the water has not been allowed to go to the south. That south water will go over that property across the street. Slow it down, add the school to it. Carrie, you did ask the question, are we going to donate land? No, we're not looking at the Morey family donating land. We're going to make it available. We'd like to do it in a way that gets us a remodeled fire station, gets us a public works facility, because Pacific Power does not want to sell their site at this time. A way that we could do a portable classroom down there that becomes the post office that's owned by the city. You can lease it a nominal amount to an operator, so we don't have to drive to Seaside to get our packages. There's a lot of things to be done. Please take the time to look at it. I'd love to discuss it with you over time. And again, let's get something done next door. We'd like to see it done, and I've wanted it for the 9 years or 10 years we've been in Seaside or here in Gerhart. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Bob. Next up is Deanna Mansell. Please state your name and your address.
Deanna Mansell, 2945 Highway 101 North. I'd like to talk about 13th Street again. I'd just like to add to what the attorney had said a few minutes ago. Christy Gillis had handed Chad Sweet the deed to what we call the Gerhart Ocean Wayside State Park. It is a warranty deed that's dated to 1939. And it encompassed 2 miles of tidelands. And the legal description is described as government lots 2 to 3, and all the tidelands fronting the Luke, and the Gerhardt donation land claim. So in 2004, when we were fighting the snowy plover issue, I had given those documents to the city council, including Mayor Smith. I also had sent that copy to the Oregon State Parks. Well, up until now, nothing had happened with the dune land. And so what I, basically want to do is call your attention to the fact that there isn't a state park there. We went through the archives in Salem. We found that the deeds that we had given Chad Sweet are still valid. We have not carried the issue any further with state parks at this time. We basically wanted to focus on the goal 18 beaches and dune overlay zone. And so the state park issue is on the back burner. But if I'm reading the state park deed, if that land is fronting the Philip Gerhardt DLC line, which is the west boundary of Kids property, well, that means all that land in front, and that includes all of the Palisades, all the way to the mouth of the Nicanicum. All of that is potentially state park. So we have not made any determination. So what we wanted to focus on was the fence, with which I don't believe is legal. The beaches and dune overlay zone calls for a sand fence. This is not a sand fence. It also calls for pedestrian access to the beach. If you have 10 units, according to that bad zone, there was supposed to be beach access. During my research, I found that Hotel Gerhardt Incorporated held the easement, and it's a non-exclusive ingress and egress easement, and a pedestrian path to the beach. They own that all the way from Marion all the way to the beach. And so personally, we don't think that that path to the beach should have been blocked. So I basically, object to that aspect of that. And I don't know if you guys realize that Hotel Gerhardt Incorporated is owned by the Osborns, and they've lived in this town for a zillion years. And so, they're local people, and they have the common element interest in all those condos down there. They own all the land underneath the easement roadway.
10 seconds.
Okay, so just keep that in mind, that we do object to that path being blocked off. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan. Okay, next up is Christy Gillis, and I see she's on an iPad.
That's my husband at home. Again.
Oh, well, would you state your name and address then?
Yes, it's Christy Gillis. I live at 003 Sades Condominiums. on 13th Street. So I just wanted to reiterate a little bit what Deanna has said here and kind of contradict what the attorney said up there. She is saying that Kevin Kidd's property, that everything, the fence, the septic system that he built there. And I have passed this information on to Chad, which I would have assumed that he would have given to the attorney.
We did.
This is Kevin Kidd's statutory warranty deed. This is his property description here. He owns a 205 feet from Ocean Avenue to the end of 205 feet. His property goes about, I figure, by just a bird's eye view, probably, maybe his entire house takes up all of that. His backyard is most likely not on his property. His septic system and drain field is not on his property. The fence is not on his property. There is 2 easements out there that Anna just spoke about that are from 1970 when the Gerhardt Hotel or Hotel Gerhardt Inc. sold they sold in two sections, 2 transactions there. They sold the motel rooms to the owners there. There are 2 wings there, and they sold those. They kept separate the middle section, which was a restaurant there. There were 2 easements that were attached to down there, and those easements are listed right here, both of them. And one is a service access easement that runs from the end of 13th Street around the building. And it's a service easement. It was for the service of the restaurant at the time. When the Osbornes developed the Oceanside condominiums there, which was where the restaurant is now, they turned it into condominiums. They did not include these easements. These easements are still owned by the Osbornes. One is for the service access. The other one is for the beach access. And everybody seems to wonder about that beach trail there. It is owned by the Osbornes, and I've spoken to them about it, and they've acknowledged it. They knew that they owned these 2 easements still. And this was done, the sale of the Surfside part of it was done in 1970. I'm not exactly sure, I don't know if Deanna knows the date of when they developed the Oceanside condos in the middle section there.
It was 2002.
2002. So as far as Kevin Kidd's property goes, no. Statutory, he's been going around showing people a survey, trying to claim that that's his land out there. It is not. A survey does not give you title. This is his title paperwork right here. And it's 205 feet. He bought 3 lots there for $525,000. If you could buy 3 lots, oceanfront in Gerhardt, 3 or 4 years ago for $525,000, you got a heck of a deal. My condo is worth that much money. So I am really doubting that he paid. He's got 1 lot. He developed 2 of them into houses. 1 lot is sitting there that he's got on the market right now for 1.3 million. And they're claiming it's a 0.9 acre lot. It is not. Right here, it says it is a 222, I think it is, that one. There's 3 lots there. One was 205, the one that his house sits on. His dad's house is 215, and the next one I think was 222. There's no way that they are 0.9 acre lots there. Right there, black and white. This is from Tycor Title. This is a statutory warranty deed. So the attorney, I don't like to tell attorneys that they're wrong, but she's mistaken. That he doesn't own that land, where his septic system is not owned by him. I don't even think his backyard is owned by him. So I'm just, and the warranty deeds that she was talking about, they're right here. This is 1939, this is for the land. This is a quitclaim deed that also is for that same land out there. The state of Oregon has that land out there, and they have since 1939. So that is my 2 cents on the deal. And I do, unlike the attorney, I factually check things, I research things. I have spent the last 7 months researching this issue here, and these are the facts.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, next up is Jack Zimmerman. Please state your name and your address.
Zimmerman, 408 West Kershaw Circle, Gerhart. I'm not gonna stand, I'm just getting out of minor surgery. Since we're not gonna talk about your bond fee, you're not gonna do a look back on it. I want to point out, you have now received 3 emphatic votes of no confidence. 2022, the Highlands bond was rejected. Your 2025 survey, you ignored it. And now 2026 bond failure. Those votes should have given you a clear message of the tone, context of your city. And you ignored it. So I would like to propose to you that you need to look up a word called discernment, especially as you go forward in the next steps and processes. And I understand that there are people here that are very disappointed. But I think it's clear if you really go in and you look at those comments in your survey that you ignored, I think it's clear you've lost the trust of the voters. And let's be clear, and I've said it before to you, there is a silent majority in this town. And they're not stupid people, they're accomplished, they're well educated, and they've seen a lot of BS come and go. And they obviously, in part, rejected your process and your rhetoric. Now, as to optics, I think too, it'd be good if you guys would get together and talk about optics. Just taking the example of the Morey's, which I thought was a very generous gift of 3 acres, how you rejected it without much explanation. And then you turn around and you want to sell the voters that you're going to pay $1.2 million for 1.6 acres on questionable land, and the public has given eyewitness testimony, and you've apparently rejected that also. But the optics of that look strange. Here you had a gift of 3 acres right across the street, a family that was more than willing to work with you, accommodate what you needed, and you just walked away and instead went across the street and offered up 1.2 million for 1.6 acres, where you have testimony that there was toxic waste dumps in that place, there's flooding, the fact that Mr. Morey had to bring up the fact that the culvert has not allowed drainage off his property. When we have testimony, and some people right here in this group know very well that that property floods. They also know the soil composition, which is impervious. So the optics alone struck a real strong chord with your voters. And I can't emphasize enough. Trust takes you to build. And over the 8 years of your process, it's not the voters' process, it's your choosing. You've lost that trust. And I think that should be factored in your future decisions too, is that as you go forward, keep that in mind. I think there's a lot more I could say, but I think I'll just end right there.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on to written communication, and this one is right here. Kid property is from Cameron Love Follette. And our lawyer from BHM or BMH.
Yeah, Lydia had stepped off. I didn't
Oh, okay.
realize that she did.
All
But I
right,
did-
so there is a letter she can write to.
Yeah, she, what she read, you can go ahead and, send off, Cameron also, and, Cameron, or excuse me, and then our attorney also did have those documents that were referred to, earlier as well, and when she made her determination. So yes, we can, send out a letter, for that. There will be a bit of an expense to it, but if the council so chooses, absolutely.
Chad, did she get the deed that Deanna was?
Yes. She had all that information, unless that was what you sent me just a day ago. But everything that was sent to me previous to a day, I don't know if there was even a
I
document.
sent you
attached.
that statutory warranty deed from 1939.
Yeah, and that was weeks ago you did that, right?
So that last week? Yeah, it was last week, and then just a few days ago, I sent you the quick claim.
So she made the responding for two pieces of information that Lydia didn't have maybe, but I believe Lydia had all that information. I'll double check that she did, report back to you myself on that. And then see if that makes any changes. I did forward those emails to Lydia and she did not say anything about them yet. So I'm a little unclear, but I believe we have all that information.
Okay. Well, then you'll make sure that gets taken care of.
Responded to, yes.
All right. So, did you have something else?
Just one question then. After listening to the folks that were talking just a minute ago and you know, what Preston said earlier and such, and then this layer about the Osbornes and the condos and the restaurant that's not there anymore and all that. Who owns the easement then, do we think?
Hotel
Osborne?
No, there was a property deal made fairly recently because there was a septic system that was not on their property controlled by them, one that was on their property controlled by them, and they cleaned that up a few years ago. So there's been even some movement since then. But I can tell you exactly what the county says at this moment. And we rely on county documents for all ownership of land. And that's the discussion that who owns it now? When did they own it? It was all kind of coming from, but currently that is owned by the Pacific Palisades Condominium Association where the fence was put. That fence was used to block people from walking onto the kid property and encourage people to walk onto that easement. And if you go there today, which I encourage all of you to do, you will notice that the trail is still, there is a trail and there's still a trail to the beach. It's all on private property, so I can't give you permission, necessarily to use it, but I do know that they never said no to anybody using it. So it is currently open and it's currently more on the easement, I believe, that was originally designed for that access. And that access was designed for those condominium associations when they were building them and putting them together.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So that's the Cameron letter. We also have a letter from E Squared Land Use Planning Services on behalf of Scopey Properties. We also have a late correspondence from Jack Zimmerman, and that takes care of all our written correspondence. Now, moving on, we're going to go to resolution 1012. And Chad, will you give us a synopsis?
Yes.
And how about if you just.
Yeah, I think that would be better if Ms. Justine went through that.
Well, I'm so sorry. I asked the master of money to please.
Yes. So I did put together a staff report, but it was mainly just for you to review and to go through this is the final process in adopting our budget. All of you are part of the budget committee and gone through that process and are kind of aware of what's already happened. But I thought this would be just a good gauge for us to have, to be able to look forward, kind of see what's going on, resolutions are, and if people have questions, they would also have some narrative rather than just having the resolution in the packet like we normally do out of staff. So the first resolution is part of the budget process, but it's actually part of last year's budget process that is currently the 2025-2026 budget process. And this is the budget committee appropriates, and then when we have us go over appropriations by a certain amount, we are able to do a resolution or a budget appropriation transfer. So we can transfer money within the fund to compensate for the ones that we've overspent in. So we did have a couple of things come up that we were not expecting. We had to buy some software for municipal court, but we were, at the time when that came up, the police department had switched over software systems and they needed, they did not think of the repercussions that it would impose on municipal court because they're two separate entities. So a countywide software was implemented for all the police departments, and then municipal court was not included in the conversation. So their systems no longer talked. So they had to, we had to buy software that hopefully, will solve those problems and they can communicate again. So that was one purchase. So the municipal court was over and the police had a line item because we had the two softwares going and for 1 year as an overlap, and we didn't quite need as much money. So we're just taking their line item from the technology budget and moving it down into the municipal court line item for that software. The other one is materials and services, taking 5,000 from there in planning and moving it up to personal services. We had an unexpected expenditure from our retirement system. For many years ago, there was a retiree that had retired and come back. And there was an invoice that was generated for some PERS employer responsibilities that we had to pay. And so it impacted that budget line, which we were not expecting. So that moved that around. So we're just asking those adjustments.
So you're looking for someone to approve the appropriation transfers. By motion, the city council approved resolution 1012, resolution granting budget appropriation transfers for the city. I'll second, someone second me.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. You have it.
Resolution 1013 is it is mandatory that the Department of Administrative Services, the DAS department, issues our state revenue share, so our liquor, our cigarette, state highways, they issue those funds. It's required that we have public hearings so that the community knows how we're spending that money and they have the right to be able to speak about if they have ideas. We did have public hearing meeting. This is the formality that we can accept these funds, that we have public meetings, and that everybody is aware that we're moving forward with the CDC revenue shares.
I make a motion that the Gerhart City Council approve resolution 1013, declaring the city's election to receive state revenues for fiscal year 2026-2027.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Resolution 1014 is our adopting the budget, imposing the taxes, categorizing taxes and making appropriations for the city of Gerhart. This is different than what the budget committee approved. It is less. I did do two legal notices for the LB one with the bond if it passed and one if it failed. The budget committee was aware and did acknowledge that if it failed, it would be removed from the budget, obviously, and it has been removed. So the adopted budget will show those columns and the adjustment in debt service. So this budget is less money than the budget committee approved, knowing that those were the reasons why. I did put in the staff report the pages that it affected, just so that you could see those specific pages and how it impacted it and reduced it down.
I make a motion that this Gerhart City Council approve resolution 1014, which adopts the amended 2026-2027 budget in the amount of $7,925,836, includes a permanent tax rate levy of 1.0053 per thousand of assessed value and general obligation debt service.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And the final one is, the Gerhart Road District is a separate taxing district. We are allowed to run that process with our regular budgeting process. So we have our general fund budget, and then we have the Gerhart Road District budget. We do keep them all in one budget document, but we do have to approve the taxes separately because they have a different and a permanent tax rate. So it's simply just approving part of the budget document just separately for their taxing entity.
I make a motion that the Gerhart City Council approve resolution 1015, which adopts the Gerhart Road District proposed 2026-2027 budget in the amount of $399,329 with a permanent tax rate limit levy of 0.0602 per thousand of assessed value.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So the final one is a resolution fixing the compensation of the following officers of the city of Gerhart, city attorney, police chief, fire chief, city administrator, treasurer, and judge, and repealing all prior ordinances and or resolutions of fixing the compensation of these officers in the city of Gerhart. So this has been a traditional resolution that has been approved every year. We believe that it probably resonates from the charter, and the charter specifically says that in section 12, salaries, that the compensation for the services of each non-elected officer and employee will be the amount affixed by the council. So we believe that this is where this generated, because previously the budgets did not have a salary schedule, and we do have a salary schedule in the budget. So we approved that. It's publicly seen for several months before it's approved. But we do this as a formality just because the charter says that. And it doesn't have a place for the judge or the city attorney. So we do have them in there. At this point, we just noted that the city attorney will be negotiated because we don't have one in place yet. And we have a fixed rate for our judge.
I'll make a motion that this Gerhart City Council approve resolution 1016 by title only. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All right. We have no old business. We're moving to new business. There's a 3-minute comment for each item going to be discussed. Anyone wishing to discuss the memorandum of understanding, providing for additional water service between the cities of Warrenton and Gerhart may raise their hand and we will give you 3 minutes, including people on the screen. Seeing no hands. Okay, Jack.
Sorry. Is the memo of understanding, is that all you're gonna have, or you're gonna have an actual contract?
We, in government, we have a memorandum of understanding, which is what we work on and have always worked on.
And that's legally binding?
It is binding between the two cities. Anyone else? Seeing none, I close the comment period. All right. Shall we go to the, I'll get to. Chad, will you read the synopsis for us?
Yes, Mayor, Council. The city of Gerhart maintains water purchase agreements with both the cities, Warrenton and Seaside. Warrenton serves as an important supplemental water source, particularly during the summer months when Gerhart's groundwater production is limited by seasonal water right restrictions. Gerhart's current memorandum of understanding with Warrenton was last renewed in 2023 and is now up for renewal. The city of Warrenton approved the attached MOU at its April meeting. The proposed MOU would allow Warrenton to continue providing water to Gerhart through May 2031 at the outside city government rate described in the Warrenton water fee schedule. Recommendation is that the council authorize the city of Gerhart to enter into the attached water memorandum of understanding with the city of Warrenton. Also, under legal analysis, Sylvania Miller with Miller Nash assisted us with the review and negotiation of the draft agreement. The most notable changes from the prior agreement is the extension of the term through May of 2031. The agreement also identifies the applicable rate category as Warrenton's outside city government rate as described in Warrenton's adopted water fee schedule. Financial analysis was that the proposed budget was prepared based on the anticipated cost of purchasing water from Warrenton under the agreement. The MOU does not establish a specific percentage rate increase. Future costs will depend on Warrenton's adopted water fee schedule and the amount of water Gerhart purchases. Any questions from the council?
I have 2 questions. Was the water, so we didn't have anything to say about their water fee schedule, just like they probably don't have anything to say about ours.
Correct.
And that's been in place for some time.
Correct. Now, we did, Sylvania Miller and I did approach the city on multiple occasions and discussed with them our situation and where we are paying for all the infrastructure and maintaining our system. And they understood that when making this agreement. It still didn't make much of a change to their MOU. It's very similar to the way it was before, except now we also have more water available to us from Warrenton to get through the year.
Do we know how often they change their rates or look at their rates?
They're just went through their budget process, and typically after their budget process, they look at their rates again. The last rate change they made, I think, was about a year ago.
I think they're making another one this year.
And they may be making it, and so we've got our eyes on that.
Can't remember if it was 4% or 5%.
And on page 2, there's a at the very top, the last whereas has an item 1 or I or right about the word, like something was going to be written there. Is that just a typo?
No, I remember us talking about it. It was just a floating I. But I'll double check to make sure. But no, I don't believe it's attached to anything.
Chad? Is there a minimum amount of water that they specify we have to buy?
No, but we do pay a rental to be connected to their system. So every month we pay for a meter fee. So I suppose that would be the minimum. And so in the months, the 9 months, 8, no, I won't even say that. For part of the year, when we do zero water, we still pay a rental to be connected to that water system. Helps them maintain it, replace the valves, and that sort of thing.
Do you know how much that is?
We're just looking at, it's every month, there's one of them. think a total of like 700.
Yeah.
We have to pay 2 meters. One of them is more expensive than the other one.
We have two connections with Warrenton, one right down here on McCormick Garden Road, and then one at the end of Adair.
Is that per month you're talking?
Per month. And we do have to pay just like the city of Gerhart charges people who have zero consumption. You still have to pay the base rate.
Sure.
Same thing with the city of Warrenton. They charge, so one of them is $737 and one of them is $476. So every month we pay $1,213.
My mind was going to, if we ever get our increased water rates, we will have potentially less need of water that we get from them. Is that
Essentially, yes.
okay? So,
That's the goal, actually.
okay, and they're all fine and good with that, right?
Yeah, I think we've all seen Warrenton's development, and they do have uses for their water in the future. They've got some large developments that they'd like to look at. They do have enough water to provide for them and for us, but as they develop more, and things become more and more scarce, because they are surface water out of a river rather than a constrained aquifer as we are, they are more susceptible to changes in the environment and whether or not they're able to take more water in that. So eventually, yeah, they would kind of like to have that water available for their people, but right now they're doing really well. That's the agreement.
And there's no way that we could manage those meters.
They own the meters.
Yeah, they own the infrastructure and the meters, as the mayor was saying, and they provided those to us, and so they rent them to us. The connections, even regardless, if we, again, Water Resources Division has just begun looking at our file that we submitted. If we were to get more water rights, we may be able to renegotiate those connection fees because they're not being used as much. But I think, and I think that Mark McFadden thinks the same way, that this is a very good connection regardless for resiliency. In case something was to happen to our system, we'd be able to easily tap into theirs. We do have the same sort of tap in with the city of Seaside. It's not as large and it wouldn't handle the daily use of Gerhart, but it is there to supplement. And that's why we have that agreement. And I believe that one goes both ways.
Doesn't Warrenton's go both ways too?
They purchase water from us
I thought I saw that.
a couple times.
They do that, but not through their meters that they have or their connections that they have set up with us, because that would just be us pushing it to their water plant. We have a demand valve between us and Surf Pines. And occasionally it opens when their water pressure gets low. And then we send them a bill and they pay.
They deduct it from our water.
Excuse me, yes, actually, we send them a bill and they deduct it from our water bill. Same rate. No chance for us to up the water rates.
Well, I think it's a good, I think it's a good idea that we're connected both to Seaside, smaller line, as well as Warrenton.
Yeah. Best resiliency for the human.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, it was my first year on the council. I remember, I want to say it was Bay City and Tillamook had to buy water from each other because somebody had attacked their computer system. And they were able to service their customers. Very important to have those redundant connections. There was quite a bit of water at the time too.
I move that we approve the agreement with Warrenton for water.
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Right.
Aye. Is there anything else? Council concerns, Preston,
I don't have any.
Dana,
Yes, so, I'm trying to be positive and not create a, us versus them type of a situation with the post office, but I'm getting rather frustrated with the communication we're getting from them. They will tell us one thing in a meeting. And then the next, you hear from citizens that they're going over to the Seaside Post Office and hearing something completely different from a different person over there. And we'll say, no, that's not what we heard directly in our meeting. And then we'll follow back up and they'll say, well, yeah, actually that is a possibility, but we thought that you would agree to this. And we're getting a little frustrated with them. We are trying to push them into a position where they will attend a town hall where our citizens can show up and ask the questions that they've been asking of us. Because I think at this point, it's not appropriate for us to continue trying to communicate on their behalf. Because I'm not confident that I can reliably tell you what their position is because their position seems to change. And that's the nicest way I can put it. So we are asking them to attend a town hall. If they choose not to attend a town hall, we will figure something out where we give citizens an opportunity to communicate with us. But we have to work pretty quickly on this because we cannot continue going to Seaside to pick up our mail. And I know that I'm doing it same as everybody else. I'm as frustrated as everybody else. And if we could have solved this by now, we absolutely would have. Have you heard anything more recent?
I received an email at 2:33 p.m. and you were CC'd on that one from Ryan, I think, about the town hall.
Okay, I didn't see
And
that.
they appreciate the invitation and value news feedback, but they will not be participating in a town hall. So,
The Seaside?
no, that came from Ryan Chastain from USPS. We've been trying, as you said, to get them to agree. We have somebody from Seaside and then somebody from Portland telling us two different things. Trying to get that down. Sounds like they are not interested in issuing any type of contract for a new postal service, the postal office. They're not interested in that. And they are maybe giving us two options for cluster boxes. One where it's spread throughout town, one where it is in one location.
But we're getting.
But we're not even too sure about that.
Right, we're getting two.
But is it in writing? Have they given us those two options in
Well, I'm finding
writing?
that even that doesn't matter because one person will write one thing and somebody else will say something.
Actually, Chastain did say in writing that those were the two options that we had available to us.
Okay.
But I've asked him some more questions about that and I've not gotten a response yet, but we gotta get some time.
Anything else?
So let's just say there are two options.
Yeah.
Let's say that whatever he wrote to you at 2:30 is really true.
One cluster box or a cluster box spread throughout the area that does not get delivery.
Right. How are we going to process that decision?
That'll be through the council. We're gonna need your assistance with that. We're doing research right at the moment. I've done some basic planning for what it would take to put the cluster boxes somewhere. What property we have available to put that on is limited, so we need to figure that out. And if we were gonna do cluster boxes around the neighborhoods, it's very challenging because they have to be ADA compliant. They have to be pull up to, and they have to be potentially in front of people's homes and how that would affect them. So I've looked at the maps, started going around and looking at possible areas where these cluster boxes around town can go. And I'm collecting that information and I'll be bringing it to the city council and you can help us make that decision.
Okay,
Yeah, it's
this
not-
is a discussion we can't have because we did not notice it and there are people that want to know about this.
right.
Okay, so we need to move on.
So my point was just that we are, just to give an update and to say we're going to work out a time when we can, I'm at least interested in hearing what the public has to say before we make a decision, and that is the end of my concern.
Thank you. Alana.
Just post office. Or lack thereof.
Lack thereof. Sharon.
That's all.
All of those in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody.